Hey everybody, this is Marc Hart with the Baskipedia podcast. I have my special guest tonight, Sarah Chaffee. She is a mental performance consultant and former Fox sideline reporter. So if she looks familiar to you, she is probably out here in the IE. For you guys that are out here in the IE, she did a lot of Corona Centennial football. I've had her come on my system basketball clinics. She's even been gracious enough to talk to my team at Patriot. She did that, I believe, last week. And she's just awesome. And you guys are going to see how much of a bundle of joy she is. And she's here to talk something we haven't brought up. We're usually talking X's and O's. We're usually talking system basketball. But tonight we're going to talk about mental. And no one really wants to talk about that, Sarah. It's a big issue. And so do you want to tell us why you chose to get into that profession?
Yeah, of course. Well, thanks for the introduction, Mark. I don't know if I've been called a bundle of joy before, so I really appreciate that. But so I got into sports, to begin with, because, I played sports my whole life. Sports really, it contributed to, the woman that I am today, for lack of better words. But I grew up with an older brother, and our lives revolved around sports. It really was the one thing that bonded my family together. So some of my best memories involve sports. So, but from a young age, I really wanted to be a sports reporter because I loved asking questions. I had a really curious personality, love talking to other people, love anything that's below surface level talk. Can't do surface level. It actually drives me crazy. So, decided from a young age that I really wanted to be a sports reporter. Obviously, not many females were doing that, but some incredible females paved the way. So I had an opportunity, and I think it fueled me that, people my whole life told me that I couldn't or shouldn't be doing that. So, it was fun for me when I got to a network at the age of 22. But, through that, I was working with a lot of ages and stages of athletes. But when I was around the professional athletes, they kept talking, many of them kept talking about mindset. And I never really understood, mindset or what went into that. I never really had a grip on my mindset. So I wanted to learn more about it. So I kind of sought some education and learned to love it. And passions kind of shifted for me. And I wanted to have these conversations with athletes about the mental side and not just about, the X's and O's. So went back to graduate school, got my master's in sports psychology. And now I'm here working as a mental performance consultant with, like I said, all ages and stages. So it's really fun because something that applies for a professional athlete can apply for a middle schooler and can apply for us. You don't have to be a professional athlete to train your mind and to adopt sports psychology concepts, certainly, you know what I mean? So yeah. I'm loving the ride, and I think I'm a bundle of energy and joy because I'm just so passionate about it. And truly, I feel like this is my calling to just serve, be of service to other people. So that's why I love doing it. And it was a thrill to come work with your team, and it's been a thrill to come on your systems, all your little system social media. So yep. I'm thrilled. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So advice for people that may tune in, may listen to this at a later time or live tonight. If they wanted to get into your profession, what's the advice of how people would go about doing this? Obviously, you got to have the schooling, but other than that,
yeah.
Any advice? Interning or doing a lot of,
For sure. Interning obviously is an incredible opportunity. I think where I would begin is, do you have a service mindset? Do you have a desire in your heart to serve others? Because that's really what this job is all about, is, being of service to other people. In my work on a daily basis, it's not about me. And it's got to be about the person in front of me. So nothing that I do can really involve me. It's got to be about them. So you really have to have this service mindset, a servant heart type of personality. But, along with the education, I would just suggest, ask a lot of questions. I think what's helped me in my career so far is I'm not afraid to ask questions. And I think to be curious is, to learn and to grow in so many different ways. So, speak up. And one of the best things I think I've ever done was reach out to the people in the space that I really admire. So even though they might have a lot of followers on Twitter or social media, or they might be a big time speaker or just a big time person in your space, don't be afraid to reach out to them. A lot of them, are take that as a compliment and are more than willing to help out and offer some wisdom. And, that's really what's contributed to a lot of my growth as a mental performance consultant, is reaching out to people that are much wiser than me, who are doing what I want to do at a high level and doing it well, and just gathering some wisdom, learning from their failures, their mistakes, and being a constant, you've got to have this forever learner type of mentality. It's continued education, continued growth. You've got to, you never will know it all. You'll be humbled right away if you think you know it all. And I'll be the first to admit I don't know everything. And my fiance would concur. So
I put out a quote the other day. You probably saw it. I try to get, as we all do, try to get inspirational with people. So I do like Wisdom Wednesdays or stuff like that. And Kevin Eastman, basketball coach, has a saying is to be a person that be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. So it's kind of like
see that.
So what you kind of just said kind of remind me of that one.
Yes.
And I got that one from my buddy Kurt Gelsdorf. He always brings up Kevin Eastman. Kevin Eastman's a guy that he's never had two bad days in a row type of guy, and that's his philosophies. So when I booked you to come on, I'm like, what do you ask a mental performance coach? So I came up with this question. I've only asked a few people this. What's the biggest mistake you've ever made, and how did you learn from it?
This is a tough one, because I make mistakes like 100 times a day, Mark, probably more than that.
We all do.
But, and I've made so many big mistakes too. Gosh, I'm going to have to really think about this one. I think a mistake that I made when I was a young reporter, this is a good one, because this has really shaped who I've become, was that when I was a young reporter, my first job out of college was at a small local station in Alabama, in the middle of nowhere of Alabama, where nobody even knew. I didn't even know where it was, and it was called the peanut capital of the world. So speaks volumes. But no, it was an incredible experience, obviously. But the minute I got there, I found myself really thinking about, gosh, I can't wait to get to a network one day, or I can't wait to be anywhere but here. I can't wait to be to the, at this dream job that I thought that I wanted. And it was this mentality of, I was just so beyond removed from where I actually was. I was not present in my day-to-day whatsoever. And I was really struggling because of it in so many ways. So then one of my mentors, was talking me through it. And she said, don't be in such a rush to get to where you think you want to be, like that dream job, that you miss out on the best parts along the way of your journey, which can be the people, the present moment, all the things that, that present moment brings and the journey brings. And that was a profound and pivotal moment in my life, because I no longer wanted to be in this rush to get to this dream job, you know what I mean? And I found myself trying to live in the present moment more often. And some really incredible things happened for me because I was present. And, up until that point, I was missing out on so many of life's gifts because I wasn't there. And she also told me along with that, don't be in such a rush to get to where you think you want to be, that you miss out on the best parts along the way, because you'll get to the top and you'll get to that dream job and it'll be really lonely. And I thought about that, and it totally changed my life. And changed the trajectory of my career because I didn't want to be at the top and I didn't want to be lonely. And I wanted to appreciate the journey and what that brought, whether it was hardships. But I look back and since that moment, I met these incredible people along the way that are some of my lifelong friends. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest mistake, to answer your question, would be being in such a rush to fast forward years, fast forward days, fast forward where I was in my journey, and just be content with where you are right now because it's all part of the process. And I think that can go for anyone in their life or athletics for sure, or performance, you know? So I definitely learned from that one and I'm thankful that I did.
Well, if you're just joining us live, we have Sarah Chaffee, mental sports performance coach, and give us a subscribe, give us a like. Great interview so far. Next question we have for you, Sarah, is the 3 biggest influential people in this short journey of your career so far?
That's a really good question because, gosh, I'd have to think of that one. Gosh, you're asking such good questions, Coach, making me really think. I'm uncomfortable not being the one asking the questions.
I'm trying to be that professional podcaster guy, you know.
It's so great. You're doing a fabulous job. 3 most influential people, probably, you know, first that comes to mind back when I was a reporter, her name's Laura Oakman. She is a Fox Sports reporter. She's one of the veterans, one of the women who've paved the way for all the other women now doing it. If you watch NFL football, you'll see her on the sidelines interviewing all the top guys. Yep. And she was incredible for me. I was at a really vulnerable place in my life. I was a young woman, didn't even really know who I was, kind of being thrown out to the wolves as a reporter and didn't know how to navigate it all. And she took me in under her wing. And gosh, I don't know if there's a day that goes by where I don't think of the impact that she had on me or something isn't in my ear of something Laura has told me. Even in my role as a mental performance consultant, I think of Laura all the time. And I think one of the main things she always taught me was, along with so many other things, is have conversations with people and don't use people as connections. Establish relationships, not connections. And that's actually really helped me in my career as a reporter and now mental performance consultant, because feel like athletes really feel like I'm there for them and I'm present for them, and they're not just a connection for me or a paycheck for me. They're way more than that. So that really helped me. She's incredible. Another one would be Alan Stein Jr., and you probably know him. He's got a huge presence in the basketball world. You know, Alan was someone that I looked up to for years, and I still do. He's incredible at what he does. He's worked with some of the best, including Kobe, Kevin Durant, you know, all the guys. And that was, like I said, with my advice of if you want to get into something, you know, I reached out to him on a whim, and he totally same thing, took me under his wing. And, every time he's in California, he gives me a call and we meet up and have some good quality conversation. And then we actually just worked on a virtual project together. So it's funny how things like that work out. But he always told me, he goes, a candle doesn't lose its flame by lighting another candle. And I love that, because as a reporter, I grew up with, this mentality of like, everybody's competition. Everybody's out for blood. You know what I mean? We can't trust anybody. We can't help anybody. And sometimes I feel that in the sports psych world, like there's some competition, and really there's enough athletes out there for everybody to work with, I think. And everybody has their own unique style. And I think what's the problem of helping other people along the way? In fact, I just tweeted the other day about Aaron Rodgers talked about how he's going to mentor the young quarterback and, go for some kinship instead of competition. And that was profound. We were all beginners at some point, and it doesn't hurt you to grab someone else up and help them on your climb. So, and then finally, I got to think of a third. This is a really good question. I mean, so many incredible people. Brian Decker comes to mind as well. He was a Green Beret, and now he works as head of player development for the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
And him and I have only had one conversation, but same thing. I reached out to him because I really admire the work that he does. He works with athletes, and he has taken his experiences from the military and kind of applied them to sport. Does really good work. And we had an incredible conversation, and he gave me all this free wisdom, free advice, and I just was so grateful. And it's people like that that make me want to do the same for other people. And I'm so young in my career, and I have such a long way to go. But, you know, I, as a reporter, I had so many young kids reach out to me, and I always tried to help them out in some way that I could, because so many people have done that for me. So yeah, those are three really important ones to me. And
I agree with a lot of what you said, because COVID and the avenue of Zoom and the things I've been doing, and
Right.
you come on, and all of a sudden, basketball community in a roundabout way used to be secretive, and we don't want to tell him what we're doing. We don't want to tell him what we're doing. And this kind of the way we are in the world right now kind of brought people together, and these virtual clinics, Zoom, technology, everybody's learning something new. But we're in the playoffs, NBA playoffs, and everybody likes to play, I guess in football terms. You're a big football girl. We'll get to later. But they like to play like Monday morning armchair quarterback, right? So this morning, if you put on the guys like Colin Cowherd and all the big reds, right? They're all second guessing Oklahoma City versus the game. The player missing. Missing the kid wide open underneath the basket, Steven Adams. Don't know if you caught on to that or not. But what I brought you on for is we always talk about how can we help our players mentally. No one really brings up how can we help the coach mentally, because a lot of times you'll go on SportsCenter and go, well, that coach choked. That coach didn't do a great job. Or you're a big LeBron fan. I'm a big LeBron fan. Like if LeBron goes 4 for 12 from the free throw line, the world comes to an end. Everybody lets everybody know it.
Right.
But game one, Giannis goes 4 for 12 for the Bucks, and it was crickets.
Right.
So it's unfair. I mean, it's LeBron, right? I mean, I know both of us love LeBron, so that's here nor there. So I'm going to ask you some questions. You reference him a lot, so you reference him and you reference Kobe a lot. So, and I'm one of those people that I'm a pro LeBron guy more than I'm a pro than a Kobe guy. Everybody will know it here.
That's why I always bring him up for you.
Oh, okay. So, so how can a coach support their players come to big moments or high pressure games?
That's a really good question. All right. Because when it comes to, you know, like these big moments that you're talking about, or these high pressure situation in games, you know, I think what could be really helpful here is to shift the way that we interpret stress and pressure. Okay. So follow along with me here for a second, because coaches really can help themselves, and they can help their athletes here. They can help them by changing the way that these athletes are interpreting stress, okay? And as well as the coach changing the way that the coach interprets stress. Well, you know, what does that look like? Well, first, I think you can begin by asking yourself, you know, are you seeing stress or pressure as like a threat? Or are you seeing it as like a challenge, an opportunity, something that's exciting? It's unknown and it's unfolding, you know, asking yourself, like, where's this pressure coming from? Get to the root of what's going on with the pressure. Like, where's the pressure stemming from? Like, have you put this pressure on yourself? So like as an athlete, maybe ask yourself, you know, have I put this pressure on myself, or am I feeling this pressure from someone else? And like as a coach, you know, you could ask yourself, have I put the pressure on my team? Am I the one that's responsible for the pressure that, you know, I'm observing from my athletes, or my athletes are feeling? Because here's the thing, how we all think about stress and pressure really does matter, because obviously, you know, our body reacts to pressure. and our body reacts to stress. So, sometimes when we're feeling stressed out, our hearts start to beat a little quicker, or our breathing quickens, or we get clammy hands, or we sweat, whatever it might be. So often pressure and stress really get a bad name. And so when we start to feel these changes in our body, we react and we panic and we freak out. You know what I mean? But it doesn't have to be that way. So that's kind of what I'm getting at is there's a really good TED Talk on this. Her name is Kelly McGangle, I believe. And she did a great TED Talk on changing the way that we view stress. And she focuses on really changing our relationship with stress and seeing it as helpful and not hurtful. And so I really recommend going up and watching this TED Talk on YouTube if you haven't seen it. So, but what I'm getting at here is one strategy. Next time you feel this pressure, maybe it's a big game, and you feel that your heart is pounding from stress. As a coach, maybe you're anxious, or you can observe that one of your players is anxious in this bright light moment. You can say to yourself, this is my body rising to the occasion. So do you see how there was kind of a reframe there? And and when you view stress in this way, your body believes you. So that's one strategy. I think another strategy here is to absolutely just reframe the pressure. So adopting the idea that pressure is a privilege, and many mental performance coaches say this all the time, pressure really is a privilege, because, pressure and these big moments are really the beautiful part of sport. Like if we didn't have big moments or these intense unfolding unknowns of what sport brings, we probably wouldn't like it as much. Like if we knew how sport was going to go, I doubt any of us would be watching. Like if we knew how the NBA finals were going to go, we wouldn't watch. So we certainly don't want to run and hide, with our tail between our legs and lay down and play small, because obviously when that comes to competition, pressure is just part of sport. That's just it. It will always be there no matter what, and it will be heightened for these bright light moments. So if we're threatened or scared of pressure and stress, we'll literally crumble, and our performance is obviously going to suffer. So instead, another strategy is just reframing this pressure. So like I said, viewing it as a privilege. And coach, I'm going to do it again. Kobe Bryant, he said in an interview, it's probably one of my favorite things he's ever said. He said, the trouble we get into as athletes is, sometimes we get nervous and we act like we're not, instead of just completely owning up and accepting the fact that, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit nervous and it's okay. So Kobe said that. And if we know if Kobe feels pressure, we're going to feel pressure, and that's okay. So it's absolutely just changing the lens and thinking, hey, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but that just means that I care about what I'm doing here. And how cool is it that you actually care? So kind of thinking of it as that way. And really it's all about how we're viewing and interpreting the stress that we're feeling. So again, like I just want to reiterate, like redefining our relationship here with pressure and stress is a really, really good place to start. And, everything gets interpreted. So how you define pressure and your relationship with pressure is completely up to you. It's in the eye of the beholder. So identify where the pressure is coming from and learn to change the lens on pressure and view it as a privilege and a challenge, more than rather this immediate defeat that we often feel the moment we feel any type of pressure from a big situation. And again, kind of my response goes for athletes, but coaches as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've done this, and I've talked to myself for the years, coaching over 20 years, that you shouldn't treat one game more important than the other. But yes. I don't care who you are.
Right.
Certain games mean more than others. I mean, if you're playing in the Super Bowl, it's way more than playing in game one. I mean, right. It's how does a coach not get himself too overly joyed, too like you're coaching that week and you're so stressed. Like the coach is trying to implement everything in their basketball, baseball, whatever sport it is. Any advice for the coaches for themselves, not necessarily to the player, but for the coach to overcome, I guess, coaching anxiety or overperformance, to trying to, I guess, maybe overly prepare and be so stressed about it that you didn't do a very good job getting your team prepared.
Right, absolutely. And I think the problem here is the coach. If a coach is feeling a certain way about a game or an upcoming moment, that's obviously going to reflect and have its ripple effects onto his or her team. You know what I mean? So I think the trouble that coaches can get into is they place this label on their team without their team even stepping on the court. And that can come to that can result and have a ripple effect into them kind of like you and I have had this conversation of psyching their team out. Like you've asked me before, like, how do you help coaches not psych their players out? You know what I mean? And I think kind of the trouble that coaches can get into is by telling their team, that they need to rise to the occasion of whatever the occasion is, whether it's a big time game or a moment. So I think where this is a little bit tricky is this might create this feeling that the team doesn't have what it takes. If they've got to rise to the occasion, athletes might feel like they don't have what it takes to win. And as a result, they may already feel defeated before, like I said, stepping foot on the court. So instead, coaches can really try and encourage their team to simply just continue playing excellent, continuing to work hard, put in the reps, put in your, daily discipline, practice your good habits in order to be the best that they can be individually and collectively as a unit. So as a coach, just reminding them to focus on the process. And I can't stress this enough. You hear me talk about this all the time, but remaining faithful to the process is really key. And that goes for the coach too. So often athletes and coaches are so focused on an outcome. And that's okay. We can't blame them because we all fall short of that because it's really what we're brought up and hardwired to really focus on. You know what I mean? Like we're always told to focus on, if you're a kid and you come home, usually your parents will ask you, did you win? And there's nothing wrong with asking that. Parents don't, I'm not saying that that's a bad parent, but it's reframing that because to focus on the process. Like, did you play your best today instead of did you win? So again, you can see how we're brought up with this mentality. So coaches really hold on to that mentality, and so do players.
That's so funny because my dad, if I didn't call, he'd call me. You must have lost. You didn't call me.
Oh my gosh.
So
yep.
So he knew. I think he knew if the phone rang,
yep,
we won.
You won.
If it didn't ring. Mark was a little upset, and he needed to cool off for a while. Yep. And
and that's really the story for so many of us, especially growing up. So as a coach, I think really just placing the value on, let's play to our potential. Let's remain focused on the task at hand. The playing present mentality. One play at a time, instead of just solely focusing on this is a big moment. We need to win. This is a tough team. They beat us every year, and we're going to win this year. Instead of focusing on just the winning, let's focus on, hey, what are the small tasks involved in the process that we really need to focus on? You know what I mean? And again, the result is just we just get so distracted by it. You know what I mean?
Do you think coaches that set out the goals for the year, you sit down with your team, what are our goals? And you say, win a state championship, win a league championship.
Right.
You just, in a roundabout way, your personal belief, think the coach is setting the team up for failure if they don't reach those things mentally?
Okay. I don't think, not always. And here's why. Okay. I think when it comes to goal setting, I think the where you make your money is it's okay to set an outcome goal. I really believe that because that's your long-term goal of what you're working to achieve. But to just set an outcome goal is where we get in trouble, okay? Because there is a process that we have to be so faithful to in order to achieve perhaps that outcome. And we could be so faithful to the process and still not achieve that outcome. But, setting that outcome goal is okay. But along with that, you should be setting process goals. So what are the daily things that I need to do in order to work my way closer to a long-term goal for myself? And it may be an outcome goal, but really where you make your money is in those process goals of what do I need to do on a daily basis? What do I need to do on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis in order to go where I want to go to my long-term goal? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's still not solely focusing on the outcome there, instead getting it hyper-focused in on the process and being faithful to the process.
Got it. So another one for you. How can coaches help combat negativity amongst their team?
Ooh, great one. Well, here's the thing. I think there's a difference between negativity and negative thoughts. So let me explain just for a second, because negative thoughts are very, very normal. And there's nothing wrong with having negative thoughts. In fact, if you have negative thoughts, that's good. It just means that you're human. Okay. But it's not the negative thought that matters. This is my favorite thing to say. It's not the negative thought that matters. It's what you do with the negative thought that actually matters. But here's why we get negative thoughts, because, as humans, we're hardwired with this negative bias. And I found this so interesting, and this really changed the way I viewed my negative thoughts once I found out. So we have a negative bias as humans. It's something that's really been passed down from our ancestors. So naturally, we're scanning the room and our environment for danger. Again, our ancestors at one point were fighting off, whatever they were fighting off. I'm not very good at history, but, so they needed to have this negative bias that kept them safe. And you might have heard this term, obviously, fight or flight. It's the same thing. So this is obviously good, but we're not really in that environment anymore, and it can be bad because we don't really need to scan for dangers, and it can be really bad when it comes to performance because our negative thoughts can really get in our way. So really put simply, getting negative thoughts is very, very normal, but what are you going to do with the negative thought? And that's really what matters. So that's, as a coach, that's what you got to kind of ask your team. But our mind, I always say too, our mind will find what it's looking for. So I've got a quick story for you. I always think of this story when I talk about negativity, or, what our mind is scanning for. I was car shopping at one point, and I was looking at a Jeep Rubicon, and that's kind of the car I wanted. And I was highly considering buying it. And I was thinking through the decision. And once I left the dealership, I was driving home, and guess the one car that I suddenly saw everywhere?
Jeep Rubicon.
That's right. So I just think that's the perfect example. How many times have we done this?
I do it all the time.
All the time. And it shows this tangible reminder that our mind will find exactly what it's looking for. So it's obviously so easy to find the negative things, or the things that fill your mind with frustration, doubt, fear, comparison, anxiety. And we know that negativity, it spreads like wildfires. And us Californians know that that's like that. So negativity, especially on teams, spreads so quickly. How many times have you gone to your office or to your team, and one person, you're in a great mood, but one person's in a bad mood, and suddenly everybody starts to, it's like this weight that's holding everyone down. You know what I mean? So the question would be how do you turn the volume down on this negativity and this, unproductive mindset? Well, some people don't like this answer, but you got to really focus on what's good. You got to focus on the productive, the things that you're grateful for. So instead of looking at, we have all these obstacles in our schedule this season, you got to look at, we have an opportunity to get better here. We have an opportunity to play this really tough team because we can grow from this, or we've got so many problems, COVID has presented so many problems, or reframing that and look at what's the possibility here. Oh, now I get to understand what this tech world is all about and understand Zoom and meet with my team virtually. And so it's those little pivots and those little reframes that you can make your money there. But you have to be intentional, and you got to work that optimistic muscle, I say. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of work, but you'll be able to find more joy and more strength when things get tough, and things are always going to be tough. You know what I mean?
I'll be using Zoom more with my coaching staff, where we don't always have to get all together. We can just jump on a Zoom call at our own house, take 15, 20 minutes, have a coaches meeting, whatever, instead of always having to meet at the school or whatever. So
kind of looking at what's good through, and certainly I don't want to diminish how terrible COVID-19 has been, but certainly there are opportunities in all of it, and we can get really down if we just focus on what's bad. So we really got to switch it and look for what's good. You know what I mean?
Okay. How can coaches help athletes reach their individual or collective team goals?
Okay. We kind of talked about this for a second. And I think, what this looks like is, I'm sure everybody who's listening or watching has set out or thought about some goals at some point. And sometimes we set these goals and we never achieve them. And sometimes we do. But there's actually a little bit of a method here that I like to teach athletes and coaches that really kind of increases the likelihood that you're actually going to accomplish what you set out to do. Excuse me. And someone once told me, Sarah, what you spend your time thinking about often happens. And there's so many stories in my life and what I've witnessed, for this to be true. So I would ask, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about accomplishing something great? Or are you thinking about falling short and failing and falling flat on your face? So first, what I challenge athletes and coaches to do is, get very clear on your vision. Where do you want to go? And again, we kind of talked about this. This may be an outcome goal, but where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And in my work with athletes, I really challenge them to strive for something a little bit scary, okay? Because, something that's a little bit scary, will challenge them. And growth comes from discomfort. So it means that you're getting better. And actually, a Harvard researcher suggests that when we set goals, we should set them where we have like a 50 to 70% chance of succeeding. And why that is because he found that's really the sweet spot for high achievers, okay? So then when you fail half the time, you get to rework it and figure out what you want to do differently and then go try again. And that's practice. Exactly what, we spoke about. But second, it goes with make your goal so detailed and specific. It's a process and it's a journey to our goals. And it's really not helpful to our process, like I said, if we just solely focus on this outcome. You know what I mean? So you have to ask yourself, what do I need to do each day, maybe even each hour, to get closer to your goal and where you want to be? And then finally, this is so important. You got to write your goals down or say them out loud. So coach, I would ask you, how many times have you gone to a grocery store or Target or something without a list of what you needed?
Every time, basically.
Yeah. Okay. And I would bet my money that almost always you come out with the one thing that you really needed. What would you say?
I mean, you mean, do I buy extra stuff because I didn't have my list? Yes.
No. Did you have you ever gone in there and you've left with the one thing that sent you to the grocery store?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I can't tell you how many times I go to the grocery store and I don't have a list. And I literally did it yesterday, and I come out and I get home and I'm unpacking and I forgot the one thing I needed that actually sent me to the grocery store. And it's so frustrating. But why I bring this up is it's a great example because our goals are so, so, so similar. If we don't write them down, we're going to forget what we set out to do and what we need to do. And, we're going to get distracted by all the aisles. My favorite aisle is the chip aisle. And I don't ever go in needing chips, but the chip aisle distracts me because I see all these incredible chips and I forget what I need. So again, same thing for our goals. We get so distracted by, all the shiny objects along the way that we forget what it is that we actually need to do as part of our process to get to where we want to go. And then finally, I know that I'm rambling, but I think a big part of goals is you can't forget you need to adjust. Sometimes you got to pivot. Sometimes you got to make changes. You're going to change, you're growing, so your goals might need to as well, and you might need to adjust, and that's okay. You should be checking up on your goals because obviously you wrote them down. And then, I just tell athletes too, strive for marginal gains. Look to become 1% better each day. Follow your plan, follow your vision, follow your process, fall in love with your process. It's like a math equation. Each day equals your end goal. So today equals your end goal. So you got to make each one count. So that's a little formula that can really help with goal setting individually or collectively as a team.
Okay. So Lays or Ruffles, are you Ridges, or since you're a chip girl, what chips are you?
Okay. Well, I just discovered these. Well, I don't know if this counts as chips, but I just discovered them and I ate a whole bag in one night. But, Smart Pop popcorn.
Oh, yes, I eat them. Yep.
They have a flaming hot Cheeto version now.
Oh.
That's reckless. So it's honestly, I can feel my insides burning as I eat it, but it hurts so good that I just can't stop. So I don't have, a partnership with them, but I would love one if someone that represents them are listening.
Okay.
Jokes.
There you go. Okay, so I asked you one of these questions earlier. You sent me a picture, but COVID's made me a reader, and reader podcasting. Go figure. I'm doing podcasts now too. So
you're pumping up great content,
and so I've been trying to find some good coaching books, and here's one I have. I mean, I don't know if you ever recommend it. I've been reading Pat Riley. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Pat Riley, The Winner Within.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I don't know if you'd ever recommend that one.
Yep.
These are all basketball.
I love
Pete Carril, The Smart Take from the Strong. And then a big time author that you probably know, John Gordon.
Yep.
The Hard Hat. This was the summer reading. I learned it from another coach during COVID that they do a summer reading during the summer with their program. So
I love that.
A positive thing that we did was we got to work out for 2 days and then it got pulled. But as we were getting together to do that, I learned about this and I went to the parents of the program and asked, anybody know anybody that would donate or get books? Mom emails me back immediately and goes, Coach, what book do you want?
Oh my God.
And she went on Amazon and ordered 15 books. So what books do you recommend for coaches? I know it doesn't necessarily have to be basketball related, but what on like leadership or the mental side would you recommend?
Well, the good news is I'm at my desk and I've got some great books with me.
She came prepared too. So.
Didn't even know you were going to ask that. Okay.
It's not on the questions. Nope, it's not. I can show people the question.
I definitely, let's see here. Okay, probably. So funny. Well, here's the problem. Some of the books that I would really recommend for coaches are holding my laptop up, so I can't show you.
You knew that trick. You must have said you must do it on YouTube and said how to look good on Zoom or something.
No, I was a reporter. Don't forget.
So you need to put it at your eye level, right?
Yep. Trust me, I learned all these tricks long ago. Okay. Anything by Jocko Willick or
okay.
Willick. I'm butchering his last name. Jocko was a former Navy SEAL, and some of you might know him from his little. He's got like a little YouTube or podcast clip that went viral called "Good," like you had a bad day, good, means that you're going to be better. That you got to listen to it if you haven't heard it. It's fabulous. So the dichotomy of leadership, great for coaches. I've got the Ranger way here. As you can tell, I'm a big military person. I think the concepts that they teach in the military are easily applied in life performance or whatever your craft is. If we're talking about, obviously, I gotta rep my guy's book, Alan Stein Jr. Raise Your Game. Have you read that?
I have not actually.
Oh,
I'm a big Alan Stein fan, and forgot to even mention that you bring him up again. His journey changed. His journey changed, like you.
Oh,
he was on the court, skill trainer.
Yep.
And now he's a mental keynote speaker and just killing it. He's killing it.
I have an extra Raise Your Game book. I'll get your address and send it to you.
Okay, awesome.
But if we're working, this I recommend for athletes. Coaches can learn a lot from this as well. Is Mind Gym by Gary Mack. I have almost every athlete that I work with read this because it's the most basic, easy chapters, really short chapters, and it sums up mental skills in a whole. Got a lot of great, credible athletes, examples and stories of athletes, and it's an easy read. And athletes, almost every athlete I've known that I've given to that to, they loved it. So those are three. Again, I'm showing them, so I don't know for the people listening. It's mine.
You can get them to me, and I can put them in the podcast description when it gets released, and we can. So anything by Jocko, the Ranger Ray, Chris, and Paranoto, I'm really bad with last names, and Mind Gym by Gary Mack and Alan Stein Jr.'s Raise Your Game. Those books are solid. Are you a podcast person other than being on one right now? You listen to podcasts, so do you have any recommendations for positivity or coaching?
I train for marathons, and I get really bored when I'm running, so I listen to podcasts, and it makes it go by quick. Jocko's got I'm a big Jocko fan. Jocko's got a great podcast. You're talking just leadership?
I mean, or anything that you think coaches might, that they need to dive into and take a look at to help themselves, help their mental side and their training, and that can maybe correlate to then their players.
Yeah. Dr. Michael Gervais has a great podcast called Finding Mastery. He's the sports psychologist for the Seattle Seahawks. And
Pete Carroll.
Yep. So him and Pete Carroll actually wrote a book together called Compete to Create. And that's another great leadership book. And Pete Carroll gives some insights on coaching and how to better coach. And then it coincides with Dr. Michael Gervais and his expertise in sport and performance psychology. So that's another highly, highly recommend. But on Finding Mastery, the podcast with Dr. Michael Gervais, he interviews just the best of the best type of people in so many different realms. But they've kind of conquered what it takes to be at their best more often. So it's really interesting, and it's pretty psychological, but I think it can be interesting. A lot of people would find it interesting if they don't already listen.
Well, now here's the nitty gritty. How excited and fired up are you for NFL football?
I am so excited. I think I'm mostly just excited that training camp is over, because that's a brutal time I would assume, for NFL players. But yes, I'm very, very excited. Football was my favorite thing to cover as a reporter, and football is my favorite thing to watch as a fan. And I'm not being biased. That's facts.
Well, you might have a little bit of bias, but so for people that don't know, who's your football team, and is there a reason why they're your football team?
Well, this is a loaded question, because
he might be listening. So
there's what I should say. I'm a big fan of the 49ers. I wasn't always my whole life, but that's kind of just where I am right now in life. I grew up a Tennessee Titans fan. with Steve McNair and Eddie George. Those were the days. And, it's so funny. I've been a fan my whole life of the Titans, and they're not even good. And now they're beginning to be good. So I really got to still claim that I'm a Titans fan, but obviously I'm a 49ers fan. And people are going to call me a fair weather fan because they were just at the Super Bowl, but I have good reasons.
Do you want to let anybody know why?
Well, my fiance plays for the 49ers, and I have to like them. But no, of course I want.
Yeah, I gotta here. Sarah knows this joke. When I first had Sarah on, I put up her picture and said that she's gonna come talk for my group, and I'm gonna give him a shout out, and hopefully he's on.
You better be on.
One of my coaches, Coach Santos, he goes, "How the heck did you get Sarah? She's the fiance of Trent Taylor." I'm like, huh? What? I didn't even know. So
thanks a lot, Coach.
And I didn't. And big shout out to hopefully he listens to this, Coach John Bonner of Cal State LA. He's the one who gave the connection between me and Sarah.
Yes.
I was looking where I had been doing a lot of X's and O's and stuff like that, and I was like, darn it, it was some selfishness. I mean, I'm running these clinics, so I want to have some people on that will help me and learn. And then if it helps others as well, so be it. So I had done all this X's and O's stuff, done some skills trainers. So I said, does anybody know a sports psychologist? And until I met you, I didn't know there was a thing called a mental performance coach. I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, she's a sports psychologist. But
we study sports psychology, yes.
So, I mean, there's all branches of everything off of everything. I mean,
right.
You got skill trainer in basketball. You got a player development. I mean, it's shooting coach. I mean, you got it all. So,
takes a big team.
We got 49ers going to win it this year.
Yes. I mean, duh.
And Trent's getting back on the field. Trent's ready to go.
Yes, he's feeling good. That's some insider information, but he feels great. He's looking great. The whole team, I really don't say this. These are just my unbiased observations. I've never seen a team really with such cohesion. They're all best friends. It's not a facade. They all get along. I've rarely seen that. Especially, when I worked as a reporter, I often, would hear about all the little dramas with the team. And, this team, they're close, they're tight. A lot of them are really young, and I think they've got a really good chance. The division is getting tougher, obviously, and you can never count Russ out. But hey, I think that their defense is obviously stacked, and you've got Trent Taylor, you've got George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo, you got Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa lives right underneath me, so shout out Nick. And George. You
better be listening too.
I know all the guys. They know how important it is to train their mind. So if the best of the best are doing it, I think we should all too.
Jericho just texted me, said he's tuned in. So.
Oh, good. He's awesome.
I got Sarah's information going across the ticker here on my little new thing that I'm getting all fancy tonight. Sarah's the first person to try it out. I'm not using Zoom tonight. Sorry, Zoom, if I hurt your feelings. I'm using StreamYard.
It's all good.
You could continue conversation with Sarah on Twitter and Instagram at Sarah J. Chaffee. But if anybody wants to reach out to you, Sarah, as a coach to get help from you on the mental side or work with their team, how should they go about doing that?
Well, certainly reach out to me, send me a direct message on Twitter, and we can talk. Otherwise, I can make my email available to you guys, because, I do have open spots right now. So I love, Coach, I love doing these group sessions. I've got some spots available for individuals. So I love just having the conversation. I love introducing the skills. I love Some athletes have never heard of it before. And I think this can help outside of sport. This helps in life, these psychological skills. So
we brought up a lot of you last night. We brought up your session that you had with the team.
Oh, really?
We talked about controlling the controllables all the time. And we talked about your inside your circle, outside your circle, your exercise that you did. That was just awesome. I've gotten to know you, and you had the one, he's a minor, so I'm not going to say his name on a podcast, but one kid just kept answering questions on the Zoom call that I can't get him to talk.
Really?
When I ask questions, he doesn't talk. But you sparked, and that's where and then on the Zoom call with the coaches, you had all the interactive. I remember you had to go get some more water, and we just continued the conversation. You had to plug in the power to your laptop. So I mean, and that's why I call you a ball of energy, a ball of fun, because your passion of what you do comes out. I mean, and it truly shows that you love what you're doing. And like you said earlier with the service, and that's why I don't know your profession. I don't claim to be. I don't have a master's in it or anything, but I can see how you're going to be highly successful at what you do.
Oh, well, Coach, that means a lot coming from you. And I appreciate you having me with your team. You've got a great team. And I appreciate the content that you're pumping out, because I see a lot of consistency in you. And, usually people will pump content out, but they're not consistent with it. So I appreciate your consistency. I love seeing your stuff on my feed. And I know that there's so many people you're certainly serving the basketball community and beyond. And I know that we can see your service heart as well. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I appreciate you having these conversations with me, because it's honestly my favorite thing to talk about.
All right. So again, find Sarah on Twitter or Instagram, Sarah J. Chaffee. She's a great follow, great person, and continue the conversation. And we want to thank you guys that tuned in live tonight.
Yeah.
And then if not, we'll pump out the audio and it will be released here in a few days. So again, thanks, Sarah, for coming on the Baskipedia podcast.
Thanks, Coach.